It's a very difficult situation. I have to say the entertainment business has been hit so hard worldwide. My friends in London, my friends in Paris, um, here in New York, America, it's a disaster because it's all privatized. The businesses are privatized, the theaters, the clubs, the artists. We have our own little business companies and we are all out of work. We're all basically on unemployment.
Welcome back to another edition of COVID-19 from Crisis to Creation here on Mentoring TV. I'm Patricia, Falco Beccalli, your host, and you find me truly starstruck. We have Ute Lemper with her, and you just saw her in the video. She is an international star artist, a singer, a dancer, an actress, an author, somebody that has been doing musicals for so many years, be it in Berlin or Paris or London West Sides, and of course, New York City's Broadway. You might also know her from cabarets, you might know her from theme musics in Disney films, or the fantastic interpretations of, for example, Edith Piaf or the infamous Marlene Dietrich. And Ute, you've already been in Vision a couple of times, so people know they had a peep in you. Thank you so much for being with us here on
Thank you for having me, Patricia. Thank you.
Well, Ute, let me first of all ask you, how are you doing right now? The COVID-19 crisis, of course, continues to roll on. You're in the middle of New York, Upper West Side. How's the situation? How are you and other fellow artists dealing right now?
Personally, I'm doing very well. I have to say, this is a hiatus, a time out in my life that I never had. I've been working my entire life. I stopped maybe 4 or 5 months when I was highly pregnant and when the children were born 4 times, as you know, with my 4 kids. But otherwise, I never stopped working. And I have to say, the time passes very quickly. I enjoy my time home. I enjoy just doing very simple things, and that I actually always dreamt about doing, like sorting through things, organizing, studying, reading books I've never read, and they're put in the corner for a long time, and just being with my children and cooking and cleaning and all of that therapeutical stuff. I actually kind of enjoy it.
Yeah,
but altogether, it's a very difficult situation. I have to say the entertainment business has been hit so hard worldwide. My friends in London, my friends in Paris, here in New York, America, it's a disaster because it's all privatized. The businesses are privatized, the theaters, the clubs, the artists. We have our own little business companies and we are all out of work. We're all basically on unemployment. And this is not easy because the life expenses keep going, the rent, the mortgages, education for the children, living expenses, health insurance, all of this keeps going, and we really literally have no income and very little bit of unemployment help. So, but also for the mental health, I have to say it's not easy. It's been 6 months now. Basically, my last concert was on March 14th. I was in Brussels. I was performing with a symphony orchestra, the 7 Deadly Sins, die Sieben Todsünden von Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill, one of my favorite pieces. That same day, Donald Trump had announced on the news that he would close the borders to Europe, but he had failed to add to the fact that for citizens and residential aliens, we were still allowed to come in later on.
Home, yeah.
But I thought, oh my God, I have to get home to my family. I didn't know. I bought a ticket that same moment. I was on the flight the next day, and I've been home ever since March 15th. And everything is canceled, postponed. Yes. First, it was postponed to October, then to November, and now these concerts are postponed to the next year, 2021. We will see how things are developing. I am not too optimistic, even though in Europe, obviously, people and theaters, institutions where social gatherings are involved are organized very well and slowly restarting their businesses. That is not happening in the States. We know the infection rates are very high up here. We've not been led properly by a leader like Angela Merkel did in Germany very well, I think, better than probably any other nation. And people are following the rules. Germans do.
Germans do. No, that
but Americans are not that easy to organize and to dictate. So we know that, especially in the Sun Belt, people are doing whatever they want to do. Yes, and people have not been wearing masks. They're not mandatory. They're not following the rules of social distancing. And our president, Donald Trump, has not been imposing this or leading it or guiding or suggesting it properly. And we're in a difficult situation. New York City is still beautiful. The summer was beautiful. The parks are filled. The Central Park is filled. The gyms are closed. So everyone who wants to stay fit goes into the park and jogs and rides the bicycle. The children are out on the playgrounds. Life has come back to the city that was completely eliminated actually through the month of April, May, and June. And slowly this kind of like beauty of New York that we love is coming back, but the cultural life is dead, and that is one big aspect and an attraction of New York, and that is missing.
Absolutely. And a couple of weeks ago, I did speak to Clive Gillinson, of course, the chief of Carnegie Hall, and he said exactly the same thing. And whilst he was trying to sound optimistic, he also is looking at anything that is being postponed, will be postponed, most likely until 2021. Yes, and leadership is a big issue. However, you know, the series which I'm doing right now on Mentoring TV, Ute, is about crisis to creation. So I see you are very active still. Yes, you're in your family setting. Yes, you have to be in New York City for somebody who's such a globetrotter like you. That must feel strange at times or surreal. But you've been doing a lot. You've been doing the rendezvous with Marlene Dietrich. You've been doing the live with Carnegie Hall and with Clive himself. How is that experience? And how do you, as an artist, really not only keep up the energy, but feel the closeness? Because when I see your performances, Ute, you are with me as an audience. I've seen you live on stage in Chicago and London many years ago, and you're dynamite. I mean, I feel you. I'm getting, goosebumpy right now. How does it feel for you? Do you actually think that you reach the audience with that energy in the same way? Or is it just really something that is good for now, a creation for now, but...
Well, the live streams are a different platform. And this is definitely maybe a platform that will increase its value, its importance nowadays with COVID and throughout the coming years. But it's, of course, not the live moment. Even though some of them are indeed live, the Carnegie Hall special was totally live on the air for an hour and a half. It was very scary. And I know how big the mailing list of Carnegie Hall is. I was thinking, my God, there's probably like 100,000 people watching this. And we had indeed just 80,000 clicks on Facebook and more on their website. There was a very large audience later on through the library who watched that special. This was a special recorded on the 21st of April. Let's quickly talk about it because it's very important in my repertoire, in my life, to talk about this subject. It was a commemoration of the Holocaust. I have in my program, and I'm actually scheduled to perform in Carnegie Hall next April, live at Beccalli Hall, this program called Songs for Eternity. Yeah. It is dedicated to the to the Jewish people that were incarcerated in the concentration camps and ghettos, and still created music in those moments of total darkness and fear, and music as an outcry of hope, an outcry of still love, and celebrating the beauty of few moments, and celebrating faith, and songs that were sung to just also console the children, cradle songs that were sung in the long lines, waiting for a cup of soup, and just important songs that Sometimes were delivered just mouth to mouth, word by word, not even written down, scripted, but just heard. And later on, right after the war, 1946. And then I did another live stream in June for the Dresden Festival. The director of the Dresden Festival is Jan Vogler, a German cellist who lives actually in the neighborhood just 2 blocks away from me. And he said he actually played on my special tour for Carnegie. I said, Ute, I want you to present the artists with me and contribute. And I did a bunch of recordings here on my rooftop terrace at the sunset. Yeah, that was really beautiful.
I saw the one on May 20th, and it just blew me away. And, the wind was going through your hair.
Yeah. And it was just on my little computer with no special audio technique, and just trying to sing it. It was not easy. Yes, and now I'm going to be doing on October 25th here in New York from a beautiful concert hall, my rendezvous with Marlene. That was not easy to schedule because this will be technically more demanding. I need a film crew with 5 cameras, audio designer, lighting designer. So we'll be like 10, 15 people, and we had scheduled it for September. It was impossible. The theater did not permit these amount of people in clustered together in a room, but now we found a hall who is permitting this. And so we had postponed it to the 25th of October. I hope you, everyone around the world.
Yeah, well, I can't wait because one of your shows was we supposed to happen on last Saturday, the 19th.
Yes, and this one is
Let's talk about you. You're the star of the show, and I have prepared a little screen share with our audience, and please allow me to share it with everybody here on Mentory TV. And this is this following clip, and I hope it will work. Oh no, that's not it.
That's me with the school bag. In 1969.
Exactly. Oh my God, where are you? Here it is. I mean, how could I not share this? Because for me, I watched this, and apart from, being swept off my feet, I had the feeling that you were 18. You were at the beginning of your career, and you kind of almost preview what your life would be like. You continued your job. You combined it with a private life, also having 4 children. And the moment that you really reached stardom, your breakthrough, was when Savary took you to Paris to play Sally Bowles in Cabaret. Tell me a little bit about this moment, about how determined, how much work, discipline, or just, happy-go-lucky positive attitude was really the driver behind your career.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the driver behind my my career, my work, my ambition, my never ending, always going forward mode was just love for music. Not applause, success, fame, anything like it. Just the pure pleasure to express music, storytelling. It just felt like a reality that I wanted to live in. It was a lot more satisfying, important, deep, grand than the day-to-day life. Small talk with people, all that I thought was pretty boring. I really like to dig into the creation of life and the conflicts of life that are addressed in literature and theater plays, addressed in songs, addressed in screenplays or stage plays. And of course, just the love of expressing music and dance and with the voice and singing.
And
that was the drive.
Yeah, and the ability. I heard you once saying, well, my life is work. Work is my life. So it is just what you embody.
Yeah, it didn't really feel like work ever, I have to say. Yeah. It always felt like a privilege. And what then felt like work was to be having to perform every day. You know, once you are captured in these productions, these music, especially musical productions, where it was Cats in Vienna in the beginning, 1983, Peter Pan in Berlin, 1984, 85, then Stuttgart Staatstheater with the theater plays, Fassbinder plays, then Paris with Cabaret, Jérôme Savary, and Chicago and London Broadway, where you have to perform 6, 7, or 8 shows a week. That always felt unnatural. I never liked to do that. I always felt like that's too much. I can't give that much. Of course, you have it in you, and you get used to being exhausted. You get used to just like working on full flame and always being on the brink of a total collapse and exhaustion and physical and vocal collapse. But I never like to push it that hard. The original flame, though, couldn't be eliminated, thank God. And when I went, I always really liked having my solo shows and being able to organize my own schedule, the performance schedule, the concert schedule, flying around the world, doing my thing, my shows with 20 songs that are just from all different repertoires, a storyline that I create, that I want to tell, working with my musicians that are my family, that I can improvise with. They're like my crew, my family, my brothers and sisters. And that's when I'm the most comfortable doing my own thing.
Yeah, you left, I think, the daily life, the musical life, about 20 years ago. And you said once one of your favorite pieces and people, apart from Sally Bowles in Cabaret, was also in the Seven Deadly Sins, Anna. Is Anna 1 the strong one, and Anna 2 the weaker one? And I wonder whether, Anna 1 was the strong one because she just had to motor through to feed her family. And I wonder, your own career and maybe the tough times, did you identify with yourself, okay, I have to do these daily shows. It must not be routine, but it feels like a routine. I want to do my own stuff. I want to jet. I want to, However, did you actually identify that you had to do certain things and maybe compromise your inner values or real likes, heartfelt likes and wants in order to get where you are right now?
Yes, I would say life is always have been a complete compromise. A compromise between the personal life, the responsibilities towards my family, my children, and the balancing act to do concert tours, to be on Broadway, to do all of this. It was always a very split personality thing that hurt. It was never easy, and there were sacrifices on both sides. When I was on Broadway, I couldn't tuck in my little children. They were little at the time. Now they're in their 20s, but at the time they were like 4.
You in now. They tucked you in. I have that from my
almost. They were 4 and 2, and I was terribly sorry at night. I couldn't be there for them, read them stories for almost 2 years in a row, and I missed a part of that childhood. But then again, these were it was a difficult balance act all the time. But I have to say, the compromise, I didn't make too much in my art. In the Broadway productions and musicals, yes, I wasn't completely happy sometimes with the direction and with the production, and I felt like, oh, this is really shallow. In musical, I thought, oh, this is too much slapstick. When is there finally some kind of a deep emotion here? But then again, I could recover this in my other chanson career, the French chanson that I actually do since the 90s, the late 80s. I started with my solo shows in 1989, and the Kurt Weill career the first recording started in 1987. So that career was a parallel career to the stage career and was launched the late of the 80s. And that's where I could perform worldwide with my Kurt Weill, Bertolt Brecht, Berlin Cabaret repertoire. So yes, it was never easy. I would say I always felt like it was a step forward and a step back, a step forward and a step back. I thought, where am I? Sorry, that was a serious. You can leave that in. I don't mind. So I always felt it was never easy. And sometimes I say this to my kids and my grown-up kids, and they say, "Mom, don't pretend everything's so hard in life." But honestly, they say that to me. But It's true. I didn't have that kind of life where what they have they went to college. They had parties and studied and drinking and fun and stuff like this. That really never happened. It was a fine line of discipline and pleasure in my life.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, I studied at the Dr. Hoch's Conservatorium Ballet School, never made it to Pina Bausch. And yeah, discipline. If anything we carry forward, I think, is that you got to do what you got to do. If you want that, that's the sacrifice you take. And there's no question about it. You pull up your panties and you march. And sometimes, the generation we are in right now, sometimes I think that is a bit something they might need to get back into. I don't know how you see it with your children, but
the greatest motivation for this is obviously the passion that fuels all of it. And the problem is with sometimes the newer generation that it's so hard for them to find that passion because there's so many other things that are distracting them in life.
Yeah.
The digital world, the videos and the culture, the Wegwerfkultur, we say, the throwaway culture, the short-lived attraction of music and so on. So it's not this one thing that you dedicate everything and every bone and every blood cell in your body to, like,
because there's no other thing. You have that passion, you know it, and you have to follow it, and you do what it takes.
Yes, and it's a little different to that.
I wanted to talk about that actually with you a little later on, but why don't we just pick up on this? And that is being distracted. Being a star when you started, it was hard work, the opportunity, decisive moments, decisive people giving you a break, the opportunities. These days, in order to be a star, the only thing you need to do is hold your camera there, post it on Instagram, wiggle your butt, be 10 seconds on TikTok or whatever platform. How do you explain, for example, to your children what it means to be a star, that it might be something really to do with effort, with a hard life, with sacrifice, and not just looking in a camera in a nice way?
Well, I don't feel like a star at all, to tell you the truth. And I never felt I'm not that confident. I always am filled with doubts whether it's the right thing that I'm doing. Is this tasteful? Is this classy? Is this musically sophisticated enough? Is it the right choice? And my children certainly don't see me as a star. They challenge me to the bone every day, and I don't live the life. That's just a term. And sometimes when I'm called a star, it's a nice compliment, but maybe I did achieve something in my life, but I am so modest with my achievements, honestly. I cannot really. I know that when I'm on tour and I have to do a lot of interviews, and that started very early. The aspect of fame in 1987 when I won the Molière Award with Cabaret. Suddenly I had like 6 journalists a day who wanted to talk to me and ask me these questions, and there were stereotype questions often, and my answers weren't reflected properly in the newspaper articles or whatever. So I thought, okay, what is this? This is a different monster of manipulation, the whole aspect of marketing yourself and being presented in the media. And I learned very early on that that's not necessarily something that can make you happy, this kind of reflection in the media. For even if they build you up like they did with me, and especially actually only in Germany, they built me up to the rising one-woman Fräulein Wunder in Germany, and then they drop you down like a dead fish a month later. So I was very quickly taught the reality of the media.
No, absolutely. And that is just perfect what you're saying, that I felt, especially the time when you declined another season of staying in Paris to do cabaret, and instead for double the money, but it seems it was never the real pull, but it was the challenge in developing yourself and evolving as an artist. You went to Frankfurt, to Germany. You were managed, I think, by Marek Lieberberg, Hansi Hoffmann. He was also, in terms of the PR engine you're talking about, I think he was one of the key drivers. And this is when I felt the Ute Lemper that I knew really exploded. internationally. And then, towards the end of the 90s, 88, 89, I also felt this kind of what you were just saying, this kind of backlash. That must have felt horrible. I mean, the true crisis, and then what we're seeing now to creation moment.
Well, Marek Lieberberg, the manager at the time, he catapulted my visibility and, kind of my fame in Germany. That was his task. My international career was parallelly, as I said before, established through the international record releases of Ute Lemper sings Kurt Weill. Now, this was a very important thing, and I want to talk about it quickly. It was 1988 that I recorded in the Hansa Studios in Berlin, the first round of these records, still the Cold War. I remember that I looked out of the window, there was the wall, and it was a project that was called the re-recording of the banned music by the Nazis, the so-called by the Nazis degenerate music and Arte der Musik. It was a very important project launched by a classical record company, Decca, in London. It was an international project from the start, not a German project at all. Now, this album, though, in Germany, had no success at all. Nobody wanted to hear 1988 Ute Lemper sings Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht. It was some kind of classical repertoire where they had the three penny operas at the Schauspielhauses in Germany, and it was not something that the Germans wanted to look at the time of Weimar. They were not interested. The German culture still was somehow stagnated at this time. It had difficulties to identify itself. It was not post-war, and it was certainly brilliant in the theater world and opera world and all of that, and also in the pop world, but still the identity was still hollowed out by the Nazis, who had shattered everything. And I always say, what would have happened if the Nazis wouldn't have shattered the culture of the Weimar Republic after 1933? It would have been an incredible cultural centrum of the world, Berlin, with its art at the time. But it came differently. So at the time when they tried to slam me in Germany in 1989, and I was like commercialized by this manager, this was like in the musical world, it didn't matter in an international context because this was already established. So in the Germany, I had the Achterbahn, the roller coaster career at this time, but not anywhere else. So when I finally really felt like, oh, okay, this is like what's going on here. I moved to Paris, I moved to London, I moved to other places when they had no idea what was going on. A local problem.
No, that was a good, well point. And then you never turned back anyway. And I think it is amazing to look at, the plethora of different genres in your business you feel comfortable with. And what I'm looking at, and the way I've experienced you, also from the interviews I've seen, I watched, I read, is you are so natural, easygoing, always a can-do, positive attitude, easy with the team. At the same time, your true passion for Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill, who are very political, very critical towards, of course, the political system, also critical towards the US, which is your Wahlheimat, where you are living. And also you played Marie Antoinette and also Anna, as we were saying, in the Seven Deadly Sins, that I got the feeling you're so easygoing, but you like that depth, that tragic perhaps situations, not person, situation, and the way they deal with it. What is really this attraction you feel? How do you feel so home in these roles? And that wraps up the first part of my conversation with Ute Lemper. More to come. Make sure to tune in.